to talk about the correlation analysis and insights advising. So there are two types of relationships that we have and Qlik. One is correlation that is most widely used, and then there is a mutual information. So I'm going to cover both and try to pick up the differences as well. What are the differences? So in correlation analysis, so what we do is normally we have two KPIs and then we compare the KPIs correlationship between these two KPIs. So let's just select sales amount and what other KPI we can have is, okay, let's add sales quantity. Okay, so there is this much relationship between these KPIs, and there's an option to add another, customer metrics as well, KPI. So if we do that, so it basically say that for this particular customer, this the correlation. So for each particular customer, the correlation can be different. So for example, for this customer, the relationship between sales amount and sales quantity is very high. So so these kind of things that we can see. Or let's say just in spite of the instead of sales amount, let's add discount in here. So ideally discount should not could correlate with the sales amount, highly correlate, but you see it's not that much. And it's there is not that much correlation. And if I see, if there is any relationship, so so this particular the correlation is one. So the correlation is basically dependency of one variable over another. But this dimension thing, if we add dimension, this essentially basically divide that into further chunks. Like, might be, in one category there is a correlation between sales and discount, but in another category it's not. So it can, lead us, for example, for this particular category, women clothing, there is no correlation. So we might need in our data science algorithms where we are trying to find equations, we might have to cater women sales differently than these swimwear. So it can be very high correlationship, dependency weightage for this particular variable for swimwears as compared to women. So this is very interesting part. And you see we have all these things. So in this particular category, this is normally that the correlation that we do, we just measure the relationship between two KPIs to measures two variables. But this breaking up by another dimension, this gives you more insights. And try to maybe, one particular type of breakup is skewing the whole relationship. So you can just remove that and then see how exactly the data is behaving. So this is the relationship. So dependency of one variable of another. We have another type of analysis in relationship which is called mutual information. So the mutual information, if you see, there is no measures or separation. So it's just, it says one field, another field. So the first field that we select is no, we call them derivative, the main field, and then the others are basically the secondary fields. So I have selected quantity. I'm going to select the discounts. So it's more of correlation. And then let's add country in here, and let's add customer, and then let's add product. So you see we have quantity, you know it's dependent in mutual information. So mutual information is, it's kind of a dependency, but it's more like, variables which are qualitative in nature. And there is a whole, the literature about what is mutual information is. But just to summarize it, so mutual information is, it's more like uh, detecting the dependency rather than relationship between, correlation between one another. That how much one variable is driver of another, how much dependency there are. So it's more like for the qualitative type of data, it's determined that. So for example, there is no different, you know, correlation or dependency of customer on the quantity. And let's say just we, instead of this one, we select category. I think, yeah, yes, add this category, and then also add sales amount. So you see what are where there is a correlation, where there is no correlation. So there is no dependencies, and it tells you, what is the higher dependency and what where is not. The dependency is not much. So this is an important good measure to identify that exactly what's happening, and the dependency of one variable with another, and we can just change the hierarchy so that now this becomes the primary driver. Net sales amount becomes the primary driver, and the other becomes the the correlations. So, and if I move the customer on top, so this becomes the top. Everything is dependency is measured. Customer's dependency is measured on the other things. So this is the mutual information part. Both correlation and mutual information measure somehow the relationship between one another. Uh, but in mutual information, it's more about how much of the customer data can be explained with the net sales, how much customer can be explained with discount. So this is what is meant by mutual information, whereas correlation is how much that is driving. It's kind of correlation is more like mathematical formula. There is another thing, if I can show you. If I go to correlation back in here, and let's see, if I select one sales amount and then I select an other number here, which is not a number, it is a descriptive field. So you see I get an error because there is no correlation, because this is not a number. So correlation is again between numbers, whereas the mutual information is can be also on qualitative information, discrete variables. So it tells you, yeah, exactly how much data can be explained with the other KPI. It's not necessarily has to be uh, mm, um, uh, essentially what you can call as a measure or a formula, numeric formula. So that's what's the difference between mutual information and correlation. And Qlik gives you a lot of insights that if there can be dependency. So mutual information can help you to build that when you are building your AI models, it helps you to focus on certain objects, on certain fields where you might have want to um, further engineer your data to include the impacts of those variables on those dimensions. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned.